The morning sky over Verdant Prime was clear and blue. Taeho Kim stood at the edge of the wheat field, watching workers check the irrigation systems. After 3 years, the colony was finally thriving. The soil of this distant planet had been tough to work with at first, but now golden crops stretched as far as the eye could see. Another good day, Taeho said to himself. As the colony's military advisor, he had little to do most days. That was a good thing. The 217 people who called this place home wanted peace, not trouble. A loud beep from his wrist computer broke the calm. He tapped it and saw a message from Jisoo Park, their communications specialist. The words made his heart beat faster. Unknown ships in orbit. Not responding to hails. Come quickly. Taeho ran toward the main building. People were starting to look up at the sky, pointing and asking questions. He pushed through the doors of the command center to find Jisoo at her station, her face lit by the glow of screens. 6 ships, she said without looking up. Big ones. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel 20 minutes ago. No warning. Colony ships? Traders? Taeho asked, though he already knew the answer. Military, Jisoo said, and not ours. On the main screen, Taeho saw the ships. They were shaped like arrowheads, their hulls a dark purple that almost looked black. He had never seen ships like these before. Have you contacted Earth? Jisoo shook her head. I tried. Something's blocking our long-range signals. Just then the doors opened again. Subin Yoon, the colony leader, rushed in. Her usual calm was gone, replaced by fear. What's happening? She asked. Before anyone could answer, the main screen flickered. A face appeared, but not a human face. The creature had gray-green skin, 4 eyes set in a diamond pattern and no visible nose. When it spoke, its mouth revealed rows of small, sharp teeth. Attention human settlement, it said in a voice that sounded like gravel being crushed. This planet is now claimed by the Krell hegemony. Your presence is unauthorized. You have 6 hours to prepare for evacuation. The screen went dark. What are Krell? Subin asked, her voice shaking. I've heard of them, Taeho said. A species from the outer rim. Aggressive, territorial, but they've never come this far into human space before. What do they mean? Evacuation? Jisoo asked. Taeho's face hardened. They don't mean evacuation. They mean removal. We need to contact Earth now. For the next hour, they tried everything to get a message out. The colony had 1 subspace transmitter, designed for monthly reports and emergency calls. But something from the Krell ships was jamming their signal. I can boost the power, Jisoo said, typing quickly. Route it through our satellite network. It might break through for just a moment. Do it, Subin ordered. Taeho, what defenses do we have? Taeho laughed without humor. We're farmers. We have some rifles for hunting and protection against local wildlife. Nothing that would even dent those ships. The first explosion came without warning. The building shook, dust falling from the ceiling. Alarms began to sound throughout the colony. They said 6 hours. Jisoo shouted over the noise. Taeho ran to the window. In the distance, black smoke rose from the eastern fields. Another explosion followed, closer this time. They lied, he said simply. The next few hours were chaos. The Krell ships launched smaller attack craft that strafed the colony's buildings and fields. People ran for the underground shelters that had been built as protection against storms, not war. Taeho organized what little resistance they could manage, but their few weapons did nothing against the Krell ships. In the communications center, Jisoo worked frantically. She had connected the subspace transmitter to the colony's main power core, a dangerous modification that could burn out the entire system. I just need 5 seconds, she muttered as another explosion rocked the building. Taeho returned, his face streaked with dirt and blood. They're landing troops now. Big ones, armored. We can't hold them off. Get everyone to the deep bunkers, Subin ordered. The ones under the mountain might be safe. And you? Taeho asked. I'm staying with Jisoo. We need to get that message out. Outside, the sky had turned red with fire and smoke. The beautiful fields were burning. Taeho saw Krell soldiers marching through the central plaza, shooting anything that moved. Almost there, Jisoo said. Her hands flew over the controls. I've set up a data package. Everything we know about the Krell. Images of the attack, our coordinates, a distress call. The building shook again. Harder this time. The lights flickered. They've hit the power station, Subin said. We don't have much time. Jisoo looked up, determination in her eyes. I just need 1 more minute. Taeho moved to the door, rifle in hand. It was a pitiful defense, but it was all they had. I'll try to slow them down. Outside the command center, he could hear the heavy footsteps of Krell soldiers. They were close. Too close. Inside, Jisu's fingers danced across the controls one last time. Ready, she said. Sending now. The transmitter hummed, drawing power from the colony's failing grid. Lights dimmed throughout the building. On her screen, Jisoo watched the progress bar move slowly. Come on, she whispered. Come on. The door burst open. Taeho fired, the shots hitting a Krell soldier but merely making it stumble. More pushed in behind it. Now! Jisoo shouted, hitting the final key. The transmitter surged with power. For a brief moment, the jamming was overcome. The message, their desperate SOS, shot into space faster than light, heading for Earth. Then the power failed completely. The screens went dark. Jisoo looked up to see a Krell soldier standing over her, weapon raised. It's sent, she said defiantly. The Krell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. It does not matter, it said in its rough voice. No one will come in time. 3 weeks later, aboard the Earth Defense Force ship Indomitable, Admiral Haewon Choi stood motionless as the emergency transmission played on the command deck. The footage was choppy and brief. Burning fields, Krell ships, desperate people running. Then a woman's voice, calm despite everything. This is Dr. Jisoo Park of Verdant Prime Colony. We are under attack by forces identifying themselves as the Krell hegemony. They came without warning. They are killing everyone. This is our location. Please send help. The message ended with a burst of static. Admiral Haewon turned to her second-in-command, Captain Do-hyun Lee. How long ago was this sent? 3 weeks, Admiral. At light speed, it reached our nearest relay station 7 days ago. It was forwarded up the chain until it reached us yesterday. Verdant Prime, Haewon said quietly. Our first successful farming colony. 217 people. Yes, Admiral. How many children? Do-hyun consulted his tablet. 43 registered children in the colony. Haewon's face showed no emotion, but her hands tightened into fists at her sides. Send a scout ship immediately. Fastest we have. I want confirmation. Admiral, if I may. If the message is 3 weeks old and the Krell attacked without mercy. I know, Captain. But I need confirmation before I take this to the Council. 2 days later, the scout ship returned. Its captain's report was grim. Verdant Prime was gone. The fields were ash. The buildings were rubble. The colonists were dead, their bodies left to rot in the sun. And the Krell were still there, setting up their own base, as if nothing had happened. As if they had every right to be there. Admiral Haewon called an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. She played Jisoo's message. She showed the scout ship's footage. Then she made her recommendation. The 7th Fleet, one council member said in disbelief. You want to deploy our entire 7th Fleet? Yes, Haewon said simply. For a colony of 200 people, most of whom are probably already dead? Haewon's eyes flashed. For justice. For a clear message that this cannot happen. Ever. The council debated for hours. Some argued for diplomacy. Others for a limited response. But in the end, they saw the wisdom in Haewon's words. The galaxy was watching. Earth needed to show strength. The order was given. The 7th Fleet, 78 warships, the pride of Earth's defenses, would deploy immediately to Verdant Prime. As Haewon walked back to her ship, Do-hyun fell in step beside her. They're saying the Krell don't understand what they've done, he said. That they see us as weak because we seek peace. That they think our ships are just for show. Admiral Haewon stopped and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, a colony of peaceful humans had been slaughtered. Somewhere out there, the killers were still going about their business, thinking there would be no consequences. Then they're about to learn a very important lesson, she said, about the people of Earth. The next day, the 7th Fleet departed. A sight unseen in decades. Humanity's full military might moving as one. As the ships jumped to faster than light speed, Admiral Haewon made a silent promise to Jisoo Park, to Taeho Kim, to all of Verdant Prime. Help was coming. Too late to save them, but not too late for justice. The Krell had sent a message with their attack. Now Earth would send one back, and the galaxy would never be the same. The transport ships cut through Verdant Prime's atmosphere like arrows. Inside one of them, General Junseo Kang checked his armor one last time. Around him, 200 Marines did the same. They were the best Earth had to offer, Soldiers trained for combat in every environment from airless moons to underwater bases. Remember, Junseo told them, his voice calm. We take prisoners when possible. We need information about the wider Krell hegemony. A sergeant spoke up. Sir, after what they did to the colonists, Junseo's face hardened. I know, I saw the footage. But we are not them. We do not kill without purpose. The transport shuddered as it hit turbulence. Through the viewports, Junseo could see the ruined landscape of what had once been a thriving colony. Fields that should have been golden with wheat were now black with ash. Buildings that had housed families were now smoking rubble. 30 seconds to landing, announced the pilot. Junseo activated his helmet, the clear visor sliding into place. His armor, a marvel of human engineering, would protect him from most Krell weapons. It also enhanced his strength and speed, advantages they would need against the larger Krell soldiers. For Earth, he said simply. For Earth. 200 voices responded. The transport landed with a jolt. The ramp lowered, revealing the battlefield. Junseo led his troops out into the harsh light of Verdant Prime's sun. The Krell were waiting. Their ground forces had formed a defensive line around their base, the former colony center. They were impressive figures, standing nearly 8 feet tall with gray-green skin and 4 eyes that allowed them to see in almost all directions. Their armor was bulky but effective, and they carried energy weapons that could cut through standard materials with ease. What they didn't have was experience fighting humans. Junseo raised his arm, signaling his troops to spread out. Other transports were landing nearby, disgorging more Marines. Soon, 1,000 human soldiers faced perhaps 400 Krell. The Krell commander, Vexkar, watched through electronic binoculars. He was not concerned by the humans' numbers. Krell soldiers were bigger, stronger, and better armed than most species. These humans would break against their line like waves against stone. Fire at will, he ordered. The Krell line erupted with energy beams, streaking across the open ground toward the human forces. But the humans were no longer there. With a speed that shocked the Krell, the human soldiers had scattered, taking cover behind ruins and natural features. Junseo smiled grimly inside his helmet. The Krell were fighting by the book, set-piece battles, fixed positions, overwhelming firepower. It was how wars were fought among the stars by most species. But humans had a different history. A different set of tactics born from millennia of fighting each other on their deadly homeworld. Snipers, he said into his comm. From hidden positions, human marksmen began to fire. Their weapons, railguns that used electromagnetic forces rather than explosions to propel projectiles, made almost no sound. The Krell soldiers began to fall, precise shots finding the gaps in their armor. Vexkar could not believe what he was seeing. The humans were not charging. They were not presenting targets. They were using the terrain, using cover, using stealth, fighting like predators, not soldiers. Advance, he ordered his troops, desperate to close the distance. The Krell line began to move forward. As they did, Junseo gave his next order. Drones. From the human transports, small flying machines swarmed into the air. Each was the size of a fist, nearly invisible against the sky. They carried no weapons, they didn't need to. Instead, they carried data, building a perfect 3-dimensional map of the battlefield that fed directly into the humans' helmet displays. Now Junseo could see everything, every Krell soldier, every weapon, every movement. He could direct his troops with perfect precision, guiding them to outflank the advancing enemy. Teams 1 through 5, circle left. 6 through 10, circle right. Heavy weapons. Prepare to engage when they reach the old irrigation channel. The human forces moved like water, flowing around obstacles, finding paths of least resistance. The Krell, trained to fight in formation, could not adapt quickly enough. When the Krell soldiers reached the dry irrigation channel that had once fed the colony's western fields, they found themselves in a crossfire. Human heavy weapons, portable missile launchers and plasma cannons opened up from multiple directions. The Krell line broke, soldiers diving for cover or falling where they stood. In orbit, Admiral Haywan watched the battle through live feeds from the drones. They expected us to fight like the other species, she said to Captain Do-hyun. Formal, predictable, bound by tradition? Do-hyun nodded. A common mistake when facing humans for the first time. On the ground, the battle was turning into a rout. The human forces had the Krell surrounded, their superior tactics and battlefield awareness overwhelming the alien soldiers' advantages in size and strength. Junseo advanced with a squad toward what had been the colony's main administrative building. Intelligence suggested that Commander Vexkar was directing the battle from there. A Krell soldier appeared in a doorway, firing wildly. Energy beams sizzled past Junseo's helmet. He dropped to one knee and fired 3 shots. The first 2 impacted the Krell's armor, staggering it. The third found a gap at the neck and the alien fell. "Building clear," reported a sergeant after a brief but intense firefight inside. "Found their command center, sir. But no commander." Junseo frowned. "Find him. He can't have gone far." Meanwhile, on the far side of the battlefield, a small group of Krell soldiers was making a fighting retreat toward one of their grounded cruisers. Despite the damage from orbit, one of the ships had partial power, enough perhaps for a desperate escape. Leading them was Commander Vexkar. He had seen enough to know that this battle was lost, but if he could escape, could report what he had seen to the hegemony, then the humans would eventually be defeated. The Krell had more ships, more soldiers. They just needed to understand what they were fighting. A human drone spotted the movement. In orbit, Admiral Haywan saw the Krell's plan immediately. "They're trying to get off planet," she said. "Dauntless, do you have a firing solution on that cruiser?" Aboard his destroyer, Jin Woo Kang checked his tactical display. "Yes, Admiral. Clean shot. Take the engines only. I want that ship grounded permanently, but leave their life support intact." Jin Woo's weapons officer programmed the targeting solution, and the destroyer's main gun fired once. A beam of concentrated energy lanced down from orbit, striking the Krell cruiser with surgical precision. The ship's engine section exploded in a ball of flame. On the ground, Vexkar saw his last hope of escape destroyed. He turned to his remaining soldiers, 12 Krell who had fought from the beginning. "We make our stand here," he said, gesturing to a small rise where the colony's school had once stood. "For the hegemony." The Krell formed a circle, weapons outward. They would die, but they would die fighting as warriors should. Junseo's forces surrounded the position quickly. He approached alone, his weapon lowered but ready. "Commander Vexkar," he called. "Your forces are defeated. Your ships are destroyed or captured. There is no escape." The Krell commander stepped forward, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of anger in his species. "Then kill us, human. Get it over with. That's not why we're here." "No? Then why bring such a fleet to avenge one small colony?" Junseo's voice was cold. "To send a message. The same message I'm giving you now. Surrender, and you will be treated according to interstellar law. You will face justice for what you did here, but it will be fair justice." Vexkar laughed, a harsh sound. "And if we choose to die fighting? Then you'll die, and the Krell hegemony will never know what happened here. They'll send more ships, more soldiers, and they will die just as you did. Is that what you want? More pointless death?" For a long moment, Vexkar was silent. Then slowly he lowered his weapon. "We surrender," he said. In the hours that followed, the human forces secured the planet. The surviving Krell, about 200 soldiers and technicians, were taken prisoner. Their technology was confiscated, their data systems downloaded for analysis. Junseo walked through what remained of the colony center, now a field headquarters for the human forces. The bodies of the colonists had been gathered and were being prepared for proper burial. Among them, Junseo knew, were some of his own relatives, cousins who had come to Verdant Prime seeking peace and a new beginning. Admiral Haywan joined him, having come down from orbit to see the battlefield firsthand. She looked older somehow, the weight of command visible in the lines of her face. "The prisoners are being processed," she said. "Some are talking already. They're confused." "About what?" "About us. About why we fight the way we do. About why we came in such force for one colony." She paused. "They thought we were weak because we seek peace." Junseo looked out over the ruined landscape. "A common mistake. Yes," Haywan agreed. "But now we have a choice to make. Do we stop here, having secured Verdant Prime and taught the Krell a lesson? Or do we take the fight to them?" "What do you mean?" "From the prisoners and their data systems, we've learned the location of Krell Prime, their homeworld. We know their fleet deployments, their defenses." Junseo understood immediately. "You want to strike at the heart of the hegemony." Haywan's face was grim. "I want them to understand completely that attacking humanity has consequences. Admiral Haewon Choi stood on the command deck of the EDF Indomitable, watching the stars streak by as the massive ship traveled faster than light. Her weathered face showed no emotion, but inside anger burned like a cold fire. The fleet around her was impressive. 78 warships, from huge carriers to swift destroyers, all moving as one toward Verdant Prime. The Earth Defense Force had not deployed such power in decades. Many young officers had never even participated in a real combat mission. "Admiral," said Captain Do-hyun Lee, approaching with a tablet, "the fleet is maintaining formation. All systems nominal. We'll reach Verdant Prime in 17 hours. Haewon nodded. "And the special preparations?" "Complete, Admiral." "All ships have loaded the new shield-piercing missiles. The stealth vessels are prepped for advanced deployment." "Good." She turned to face her second-in-command. "What's the crew saying, Do-hyun?" "Off the record." Do-hyun hesitated, then spoke plainly. "They're angry, Admiral. The footage from Verdant Prime, it affected everyone. Many had friends or family there. And what about the Krell? What do we know? Not much. They've stayed on the fringes of known space until now. They've had skirmishes with the Volari and the Jeks, but nothing major. They're hierarchical, aggressive, expansionist. Their technology is good but not exceptional. Yet they thought they could attack a human colony without consequences," Haewon said, almost to herself. "Why?" The answer came from behind them. "Because they don't understand us." Haewon turned to see Dr. Min Ho-yoon, the fleet's xenopsychologist. He was younger than most of the senior staff, with bright eyes that missed nothing. "Explain," Haewon ordered. Min Ho stepped forward, his hands moving as he spoke. "Most spacefaring species evolved on worlds with stable environments and few threats. Their path to intelligence was through cooperation, not survival. They developed technology before they developed strong military traditions. And humans didn't," Do-hyun said. "No. Earth is what xenobiologists call a death world. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators, disease, radiation, everything on Earth tried to kill us. We evolved to survive that. We became tool users to survive. We became aggressive because it kept us alive." "The Krell don't know this?" Haewon asked. Min Ho shook his head. "They know it intellectually, perhaps. It's in the databases. But they don't understand it emotionally. They see our peaceful colonies, our emphasis on trade and cooperation, and they think we've become soft. They don't realize that underneath we're still the species that survived Earth." Haewon turned back to the viewport, watching the stars. "They'll learn," she said quietly. 12 hours later, the fleet was close enough to Verdant Prime to begin operations. Haewon ordered the first phase, reconnaissance. 3 stealth destroyers dropped out of faster-than-light travel far from the main fleet, their advanced systems making them nearly invisible to sensors. One of these ships was the Thunderchild, commanded by Captain Sungmin Park. Sungmin had been to Verdant Prime before. His sister had worked there as an agricultural scientist. The colony had been beautiful then, golden fields under blue skies. Now as his ship approached, he saw only ruin. "Thermal scans," he ordered his crew. "I want to know exactly where the Krell are and what they're doing." The results came quickly. The Krell had established a base where the human colony's center had been. They had landed 12 ships, 4 large cruisers and 8 smaller support vessels. Their forces on the ground numbered approximately 500. "They're setting up mining equipment," reported his sensor officer. "They've begun stripping the planet's resources." Sungmin's jaw tightened. "And the colony?" The officer's voice was soft. "No human life signs, Captain. They've piled the bodies outside the colony perimeter." Silence fell over the bridge. Sungmin thought of his sister, of her bright smile and endless enthusiasm for the colony project. She would have been among the first to die when the attack came. "Deploy the beacon network," he ordered, his voice steady despite his pain. "I want full coverage of the system. Then prepare the detailed report for Admiral Choi." Over the next hours, the stealth ships placed small beacons throughout the Verdant Prime system. These devices would help guide the fleet's attack, providing real-time data on Krell movements. Back on the Indomitable, Haewon reviewed Sungmin's report with her command staff. The images from Verdant Prime were worse than she had imagined. The colony was completely destroyed. The fields were burned, and the Krell had indeed left the bodies of the colonists unburied, treating them like garbage. "They've established a defensive perimeter," Do-hyun noted, pointing to the tactical display. But it's minimal. They clearly don't expect any significant response. How many ships in orbit? HFY asked. 6 patrol vessels. Their main cruisers are landed. They're vulnerable. HFY studied the display for a long moment. Then she straightened, her decision made. This is how we proceed, she said. The stealth vessels will strike first, targeting their communication systems. Then the main fleet will arrive. I want the patrol ships disabled, not destroyed if possible. We need prisoners. And the ground forces? Asked General Jun Seo-kang, commander of the fleet's marine divisions. Once we control orbit, we'll demand their surrender. If they refuse, she paused. Then we'll show them what happens when you attack Earth. The plan was set in motion. On the Thunderchild, Sung Min prepared his crew for combat. His ship, along with the other stealth vessels, would fire the first shots of what might become a wider war. Target their communication arrays only, he instructed his weapons officer. We need to cut them off from any reinforcements. The officer nodded. Missiles armed, Captain. We have a clean shot at all targets. Sung Min took a deep breath. He thought again of his sister, of all the colonists who had come to Verdant Prime seeking peace and finding only death. Fire, he said. The missiles launched silently into space, streaking toward the unaware Krell ships. On their bridges, Krell officers had no warning until alarms suddenly blared. By then it was too late. The missiles, designed to penetrate shields before detonating, struck with precision. One by one, the communication arrays on the Krell patrol ships exploded in bright flashes. The ships themselves remained intact, but they were now cut off from the rest of the Krell hegemony. Direct hits on all targets, reported the weapons officer. Their comms are down. Sung Min nodded grimly. Signal the Admiral. Phase 1 complete. Aboard the Indomitable, HFY received the message. Begin Phase 2, she ordered. All ships prepare for faster-than-light exit on my mark. Throughout the fleet, crews moved to battle stations. Weapons were armed. Shields were raised. Fighters prepared for launch. On the bridge of the destroyer Dauntless, Lieutenant Jin Woo Kang strapped himself into the commander's chair. At 28, he was the youngest destroyer captain in the fleet, known for his aggressive tactics and perfect combat record in simulations. This is it, he told his nervous crew. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. The seconds ticked down. Then, on HFY's command, the fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly into the Verdant Prime system. 75 massive warships appeared as if from nowhere, their weapons already locked on targets. On the Krell patrol ships, the sudden appearance of the human fleet caused panic. Their tactical systems, designed to catalog and assess threats, had no category for what they were seeing. The largest alien fleets in known space rarely numbered more than 20 ships. Humans were supposed to be peaceful explorers with limited military capabilities. Yet here were 75 warships, each bristling with weapons that the Krell sensors classified as extreme threat. Attention, Krell forces. Admiral HFY's voice broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral HFY Choi of the Earth Defense Force. You have committed unprovoked genocide against our people. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning. For several tense moments, there was no response. Then suddenly, the Krell patrol ships opened fire. Their weapons were powerful, designed to intimidate the lesser species they usually encountered. But against human warships built by a species that had never stopped preparing for the worst, they were insufficient. The human fleet's shields held. Then, on HFY's command, they returned fire. The battle in orbit was brief and one-sided. Human missiles tore through Krell shields. Human beam weapons cut through Krell hulls. 4 patrol ships were disabled in the first exchange. The 5th managed to launch fighters, small craft that sped toward the human fleet. Dauntless handle those fighters, HFY ordered. Jinwoo's response was immediate. With pleasure, Admiral. The Dauntless moved forward, its point defense systems tracking the incoming Krell fighters. As they came into range, the human ship fired. Precise bursts of energy caught the Krell craft mid-flight, turning them into expanding clouds of debris. Not a single fighter reached the human fleet. On the ground, the Krell commanders were frantically trying to understand what was happening. Their sensors showed the impossible, a massive human fleet that had appeared from nowhere and was systematically destroying their orbital defenses. The Krell ground commander, a veteran named Vexikar, ordered his troops to battle stations. The cruisers began powering up. preparing to lift off and join the fight. But they were too slow. The journey to Krell Prime took 17 days. During this time, Admiral Haewon Choi prepared her fleet and her people for what would be the most significant military operation in recent human history. In her private quarters aboard the Indomitable, she studied the intelligence gathered from the captured Krell ships and prisoners. The more she learned about the Krell hegemony, the more concerned she became. They've been expanding for decades, she told Captain Do-hyun Lee during their daily briefing. Small conquests at first, uninhabited systems, then isolated colonies of smaller species. They've built an empire through intimidation and force. Do-hyun frowned. And no one stopped them? Most spacefaring species don't maintain large military forces. They consider it primitive. Haewon's mouth tightened. The Galactic Council has issued condemnations, but nothing more. Until they met humans. Yes. We're something they haven't encountered before. A species that values peace, but prepares for war. As the fleet traveled through space, news of the battle at Verdant Prime spread throughout the galaxy. Many species watched in stunned silence. Some sent private messages of support to Earth. A few, those who had suffered under Krell expansion, offered military aid. The Earth Council declined these offers politely. This was humanity's fight. On the 8th day of the journey, a small ship approached the fleet. It was of unusual design, clearly non-human, but broadcasting on human frequencies. "Admiral," reported the communications officer, "the vessel is requesting permission to dock. They say they have survivors from Verdant Prime." Haewon's heart raced. "Survivors? Authenticate immediately." After tense minutes of verification, the small ship was allowed to dock with the Indomitable. Haewon went to the hangar bay herself, along with a security team. The ship's hatch opened to reveal a surprising sight. 3 aliens of a species Haewon recognized as Volari. Tall, slender beings with pale blue skin and large, expressive eyes, and with them, 5 humans. The humans were thin and showed signs of injury, but they were alive. One stepped forward. A woman with short gray hair and a determined expression that seemed familiar to Haewon. "Dr. Jisoo Park," the woman said. "Chief Communications Specialist, Verdant Prime Colony." Haewon couldn't hide her shock. "Dr. Park? But your message." "We thought everyone was killed." Jisoo's face showed the pain of recent memories. "Almost everyone was. I was taken prisoner for questioning about Earth's defenses. These others were as well. We were on a Krell ship bound for one of their military bases when the Volari rescued us." One of the Volari stepped forward. "The Krell have been our enemies for generations," he said in accented but clear English. "When we heard what had happened at the human colony, we deployed ships to intercept any Krell vessels leaving the area. We were fortunate to find these survivors." Haewon bowed slightly to the Volari. "Humanity thanks you. Your actions will not be forgotten." The survivors were taken to the medical bay. Jisoo, despite her ordeal, insisted on speaking with Haewon immediately. "Where are we going?" she asked as they walked through the ship's corridors. "This is more than a recovery mission. I count at least 70 warships in this fleet." 78, Haewon corrected. "And we're going to Krell Prime." Jisoo stopped walking. "Their homeworld? You're taking the fight directly to them?" "Yes, they need to understand that attacking humanity has consequences." For a moment, Jisoo was silent, processing this information. Then she nodded slowly. "Good." In the days that followed, Jisoo proved invaluable. She had been interrogated extensively by the Krell and had learned much about their society, their military, and their weaknesses. "Their hierarchy is absolute," she explained during a briefing with the fleet's senior officers. "Orders flow from the top down with no room for individual initiative. Their supreme overlord, Drazkor, makes all major decisions. A single point of failure," noted General Junseo Kang. "Exactly. Their military is strong but inflexible. They don't adapt well to unexpected situations. Like humans fighting in ways they don't anticipate," said Captain Jin-Woo Kang, who had distinguished himself in the battle at Verdant Prime. "Precisely," Jisoo confirmed. "And there's something else you should know. The Krell don't value individual lives the way we do. Their soldiers are bred for war, conditioned from birth to obey without question and die without fear." Haewon frowned. "That will make them dangerous." "Yes, but also predictable. And there's another thing. They genuinely believe they are superior to all other species. They call themselves the first race and see conquest as their right. They attacked our colony not just for its resources, but because they don't believe we deserve to exist in their galaxy. This information shaped the fleet's approach as they neared Krell space. HFY ordered increased drills, focusing on adaptability and independent action, the very things the Krell lacked. On the 15th day, they captured a Krell patrol ship at the edge of hegemony territory. The crew was taken prisoner and their communications were monitored before being disabled. They managed to send a partial message, reported the intelligence officer. The Krell now know we're coming, but not with how many ships or when we'll arrive. HFY nodded. Good, let them prepare. Let them gather their fleet. I want their leadership to witness what happens when you attack Earth. On the final day before arrival at Krell Prime, HFY called her command staff together one last time. The mood was somber but determined. Tomorrow we will face the Krell hegemony in battle, she said. Our goal is not conquest or destruction. We seek justice for Verdant Prime and security for all human colonies. We will target their military assets and leadership, not their civilian population. She paused, looking at each officer in turn. But make no mistake, we will show them the full measure of humanity's resolve. They believed us weak because we seek peace. They will learn that peace is our preference, not our only option. The next morning, the fleet prepared for the final jump to Krell Prime. On the bridge of the Indomitable, HFY stood with Jisoo Park beside her. The survivor had insisted on being present for this moment. All ships report ready, Admiral, said Do-hyun. HFY nodded. Begin the jump. One by one, the massive warships of Earth's 7th Fleet disappeared into faster-than-light travel, only to reappear moments later in the Krell Prime system. What they found was a world of stark beauty, a planet of deep blues and purples, orbited by 3 moons. And defending it, the largest collection of warships humanity had ever encountered in a single location. Count 127 vessels, reported the sensor officer, mostly cruisers and destroyers. Their configuration suggests they were mobilized quickly. HFY studied the tactical display. The Krell had arranged their fleet in a defensive sphere around their homeworld, a textbook formation meant to prevent any enemy from reaching the planet. They're hailing us, Admiral, said the communications officer. On screen, HFY ordered. The main view screen showed a Krell much larger than Commander Vexkar. His skin was a darker green, almost black in places, and decorative armor covered much of his massive body. All 4 of his eyes focused intently on HFY. I am Supreme Overlord Drazkor of the Krell hegemony, he said, his voice deep and harsh. You have violated our sovereign space. Depart immediately or be destroyed. HFY's response was calm. I am Admiral HFY Choi of the Earth Defense Force. We are here in response to your unprovoked attack on our colony at Verdant Prime. Surrender, those responsible, and withdraw from all territories claimed from other species, or face the consequences. Drazkor's mouth twisted in what might have been amusement. You are either brave or foolish, human. Your fleet is outnumbered nearly 2 to 1. The outcome of battle is certain, is it? HFY asked. Ask your commander Vexkar about the certainty of victory against humans. At a nod from HFY, Vexkar was brought onto the bridge. The captured commander looked at his leader on the screen, his posture showing submission and shame. Supreme Overlord, he said, the humans, they do not fight like other species. Their tactics, their weapons. Silence, roared Drazkor. You were defeated because you are weak. The main fleet will crush these invaders. He turned his attention back to HFY. You have made a fatal error coming here, human. Your species will pay for this arrogance. The transmission ended abruptly. They're moving into attack formation, reported the tactical officer. All ships powering weapons. HFY's face showed no emotion. Begin Phase 1. Throughout the human fleet, a specific order was relayed. On 3 stealth destroyers, including Sungmin Park's Thunderchild, crews moved with practiced efficiency. Beacons ready? Captain, reported Sungmin's first officer. Deploy, Sungmin ordered. From the stealth ships, small objects were launched into space. These beacons, the same type used at Verdant Prime but in much greater numbers, formed a network that covered the entire Krell Prime system. They would provide real-time data to every ship in the human fleet, giving them a tactical advantage that the Krell could not match. Beacons deployed and active, Sungmin reported to the Indomitable. Begin Phase 2. HFY ordered. The Krell fleet was advancing in a tight formation, Their weapons charged, their shields at maximum. They expected the humans to do what any rational enemy would do when faced with superior numbers, either flee or launch a desperate frontal assault. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. The fleet traveled slower than on the outward journey, partly because of battle damage to some ships, but mostly to allow time for the diplomatic processes to begin. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Haewon Choi spent hours each day in communication with the Earth Council, explaining what had happened and what had been agreed upon. The Council was pleased with the outcome but concerned about the long-term implications. "You've changed the balance of power in the galaxy," said Counselor Elena Martinez during one transmission. "Many species are watching us now with new eyes." "Good," Haewon replied simply. "It's time they understood that seeking peace is not the same as being weak." On the 10th day of the journey, the Volari sent a delegation to meet with Haewon. Their sleek ship docked with the Indomitable, and 5 representatives came aboard. They were elegant beings, their blue skin almost luminous under the ship's lights. "Admiral Choi," said their leader, introducing herself as Ambassador Selva. "The Volari Confederation extends its gratitude for your actions against the Krell hegemony. They have been our oppressors for generations." Haewon bowed slightly. "We acted to protect our own people, but we're glad our actions have benefited others as well." "More than you know," Selva replied. "Already, 3 systems that the Krell occupied have been returned to their rightful inhabitants. Others will follow as the hegemony withdraws according to your terms." The ambassador paused, then continued with what was clearly the main purpose of her visit. "The Confederation wishes to propose a formal alliance with Earth for mutual defense and cultural exchange." This was unexpected. Earth had trade agreements with several species but few formal alliances. The Council had always been cautious about entangling Earth too deeply in galactic politics. "I'm honored by your proposal," Haewon said carefully, "but such decisions must be made by our Council." "Of course," Selva nodded. "But we hoped you would support our proposal. You have seen firsthand what cooperation between our peoples can achieve." Haewon thought of the Volari ship that had rescued Jisoo and the other survivors. Without their help, those humans would have been lost forever. "I will support it," she said finally, "and I believe the Council will as well. The galaxy is changing. We all need allies we can trust." As the Volari delegation departed, Captain Do-hyun approached Haewon. "That's the 3rd request for alliance in the past week," he noted. "First the Jex, then the Naran, now the Volari. Everyone wants to be friends with the species that defeated the Krell," Haewon said with a touch of cynicism. "Is that so bad? We've been seeking peaceful relations since we first ventured into space." Haewon sighed. "No, it's not bad. It's just different. They don't want alliance with us because we're peaceful anymore. They want it because we're strong. We can be both," Do-hyun reminded her. "That's what makes humans unique." Meanwhile, in another part of the ship, Jisoo Park was helping Dr. Min Ho-yoon interview the Krell prisoners. As the only human who had spent significant time as a captive of the Krell, she had insights that were proving valuable. "They genuinely believed we would be easy to conquer," she explained to Min Ho after one particularly difficult session. "Their entire society is built on the idea that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak." Min Ho nodded, taking notes. "A social Darwinism taken to an extreme. Yes, and it worked for them for centuries, until they met humans." The young xenopsychologist looked up from his tablet. "What do you think will happen to their society now?" "Their entire worldview has been shattered." Jisoo considered the question. She had seen the Krell at their worst, arrogant, cruel, dismissive of other species. But she had also seen their confusion when confronted with humans who fought differently than expected, who offered terms instead of annihilation when victorious. "I think they'll adapt," she said finally. "They have to. The alternative is extinction. And whatever else the Krell are, they are survivors." As the fleet approached Earth, preparations were made for what would be a historic event. The formal surrender of the Krell leadership and the signing of a new treaty that would reshape galactic relations. The ceremony would take place in Geneva, at the Earth Council headquarters. Supreme Overlord Drazkor and his War Council would be present, along with representatives from other species affected by Krell expansion. The day before Earth arrival, Haewon visited the ship's medical bay. Among the wounded from the battle was Lieutenant Jin Woo Kang, captain of the destroyer Dauntless. His ship had been in the thickest fighting, disabling 3 Krell cruisers before taking a direct hit to its bridge. Jin Woo had been severely injured but had refused to leave his post until the battle was won. He tried to sit up when he saw the admiral, but she waved him back down. "Save your strength, Captain. You'll need it for the ceremony." Jin Woo looked confused. "Ceremony, Admiral?" "The medal ceremony. You're being awarded the Star of Valor. Your actions at Krell Prime saved many lives." The young officer shook his head slightly. "I was just doing my duty. My crew deserves the credit. They'll be recognized as well," Haewon assured him. "But the Dauntless turned the tide in the 3rd phase of the battle. That was your tactical decision." Jinwoo was quiet for a moment. "May I ask a question, Admiral?" "Of course. Was it worth it?" "The lives lost, I mean, for a colony that was already destroyed." Haewon hadn't expected such a philosophical question from the young captain, but perhaps facing death had made him reflective. "It wasn't just about Verdant Prime," she said carefully. "It was about all human colonies, present and future. It was about showing the galaxy that attacking humans has consequences." She paused, then continued. "But if you're asking whether I believe the cost was justified, I think that's a question each of us has to answer for ourselves. I know only that I did what I thought necessary to protect our people." Jinwoo nodded slowly. "Thank you for your honesty, Admiral." When the fleet reached Earth orbit, it was greeted by cheering crowds watching on screens around the world. The ships had left as Avengers. They returned as heroes. Transport shuttles brought the senior officers and key personnel down to Geneva. Among them were Haewon, Dohyun, Junseo, Jin Woo, in a wheelchair but insistent on attending, Jisoo, Minho, and Sungmin. Also present was Commander Vexkar, now a prisoner of war, but treated according to international conventions. He had been quiet during the journey back, observing the humans around him with his 4 eyes constantly moving, constantly assessing. The Earth Council chamber was filled to capacity. Delegates from every nation on Earth were present, along with ambassadors from a dozen alien species. At the center of the chamber, a large table had been set up for the signing ceremony. Council Chairperson Sophia Wu opened the proceedings. "Today marks a turning point in Earth's relationship with the wider galaxy," she began. "For too long, some have mistaken our preference for peace as weakness. Recent events have corrected that misunderstanding." She gestured to where Supreme Overlord Drazkor and his War Council stood, flanked by human security officers. The Krell leader looked diminished somehow, his once imposing presence reduced by defeat. "The treaty before us today establishes new boundaries for the Krell hegemony, returning systems they took by force to their rightful inhabitants. It creates a framework for dispute resolution that does not rely on military might, and it recognizes the sovereignty of all species, including those previously deemed lesser by the hegemony." As the chairperson continued outlining the terms, Jisoo found herself studying the faces of the other alien delegates. The Volari watched with barely concealed satisfaction. The Jeks, a species of short, stocky beings with thick fur, seemed nervous but hopeful. The Naran, who resembled tall, willowy trees with faces embedded in their trunks, swayed gently as if in a breeze, their way of showing approval, and then there were species Jisoo didn't recognize, likely others who had suffered under Krell expansion and had come to witness this moment of justice. When it came time for the signing, Drazkor approached the table. He had to bend low to use the ceremonial pen, his massive frame awkward in the human-designed space. "By this act," he said, his harsh voice subdued, "the Krell hegemony acknowledges the sovereignty of Earth and all other spacefaring species. We renounce our policy of expansion by force and agree to the boundaries and terms herein described." He signed the document, then stepped back. Chairperson Wu signed next, followed by representatives from the affected species. As the ceremony concluded, Drazkor approached Admiral Haewon. Security tensed, but she waved them back. "Admiral Choi," he said, speaking low enough that only she could hear. "There is something you should know." "Yes?" "The Krell were not acting alone when we attacked your colony." Haewon's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "There are factions in the galaxy that fear humanity's potential. They encouraged us to test your defenses, to see how you would respond to aggression. They provided intelligence resources." "Who?" Haewon demanded. "Which species?" Dreskor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. I cannot say more here, but you should be watchful. The Krell were convenient tools, easily manipulated by appeals to our pride. But those who used us remain hidden, and they will try again. Before Haywan could press for more information,